All right, let's dive into one of the biggest, thorniest questions in education today. It's something that just about everyone, teachers, parents, you name it, is wrestling with. And I mean everything. We're not just talking about algebra or chemistry. We're talking about character, about wisdom, about how to actually navigate the world. In this age of nonstop information, how does anyone, let alone a student, actually keep up with it all? Well, this brings us to what a lot of people are starting to call a crisis of knowing, because the sheer amount of stuff we're now expected to teach and somehow grade and measure, it's just mind-boggling. I mean, just think about this for a second. Right now, educators are trying to juggle more than 300 different educational frameworks, each one with its own goals, its own philosophies. It's a lot. And if that wasn't enough, they're supposed to track over 5,000 key performance indicators. 5,000. How on earth is a single curriculum or a single teacher supposed to manage that? Then, on top of all that, we're told, hey, make sure you're teaching real critical thinking skills, one of the hardest things to actually measure. And at the same time, make sure you're building a real sense of social responsibility in students. Another absolutely vital but almost impossible to grade quality. And then you have to fold in these incredibly deep, complex ideas, like Islamic epistemology, which is a whole way of understanding what knowledge even is. So trying to cram all of this into the old system, it isn't just hard, it's basically impossible. So you have an impossible problem. What do? Well, you don't just tweak the old system, you have to build something totally new. So let's meet ALEF. It's designed to be a whole new universe for learning. Now, ALEF isn't just another learning app. Think of it as an AI-powered ecosystem. Its entire job is to take that chaotic mess of frameworks, all those thousands of metrics, and all those big ideas, and weave them together into one seamless, personalized journey for every single student. Okay, that sounds pretty good, right? But what does it actually look like for a student? Well, the best way to get it is to follow one student's journey. So meet Jordan. He's a junior, really into STEM, and has his eyes set on a great university. Now, when Jordan logs into ALEF, it doesn't just show him his grades. The AI builds this whole picture of him, from his 3.8 GPA to the fact that he's 92% engaged with his coursework. And here's where it gets really cool. Based on everything it knows about Jordan, ALEF suggests career paths where he'd probably thrive, like data scientist, which is a 78% match. But it doesn't just leave it at that. It gives him an actual plan with concrete steps, like, hey, let's work on getting that SAT score up to 1,500. And the personalization goes even deeper. The system's learning style analysis figures out that Jordan is a highly visual and kinesthetic learner. He learns by seeing and doing. So what does ALEF do? It automatically adjusts, feeding him content through videos, diagrams, and hands-on activities that click with how his brain is actually wired. But we're not just talking about cramming for tests here. Let's check out one of his courses, the Islamic Finance Strategist. This isn't your typical textbook stuff. It's more like a game, a simulation where you have to make tough calls on real-world financial and ethical problems. So here is the situation you're put in. A team pitches a new financial product. It follows the rules, sure, but it feels a little off, like it's just copying what's already out there. So what's the move? Do you prove it to stay competitive, or do you push back? What would you do? And this is where it gets really interesting. Your feedback isn't just a right or wrong buzzer. Nope, it's a conversation. You hear from the CEO who's thinking about the market, you hear from an economist who's talking about fairness, and you hear from a scholar who brings in the deep principles. You're not just learning a fact, you're learning to see the world from all these different angles. So that's just one student's path. But the real power of a system like this is when you zoom out and see how it connects the entire universe of learning. Take a look. On the left, you've got Jordan's student portal. On the right, you have his teachers, Dr. Chen's. They're basically two sides of the same coin. Dr. Chen sees exactly where Jordan is thriving and where he's struggling in real time. It creates this amazing instant feedback loop between them. And let's be real, learning isn't a solo sport. It's social. So inside each course, you've got these lively discussion boards. Here's Dr. Chen jumping in to answer a question about differential equations, turning what could be a boring lesson into a real live conversation. And you can actually see these connections taking shape. In just this one little corner of the network, we can count 23 distinct links between students and their teacher. It's not just an idea, it's a measurable community. And when you pull back all the way, it all comes together to form a dynamic, living map of the entire network. Every dot is a person. Every line is a connection, a shared idea, a question answered, a bit of mentoring. This is literally what a universe of knowledge looks like when it's all connected. Which really brings us to a final big thought. When you can seamlessly connect everything, personal growth, gamified ethics, social learning, and AI-driven planning, you completely change the idea of what a classroom even is. So the real question becomes, if this is the new classroom, where are the walls?